Welcome back, everybody. Mr. Wayne here. This is our second take at this video. I am having a very interesting day today, reflecting a lot of things, understanding a lot more things when it comes to my immediate environment, those that are around me, business relations. Man, I spent like 5 minutes making a video prior to this, but I stopped recording it. I'm very, very deeply unsatisfied right now with where I'm at in my life. Especially going through this, I want to be somewhere else now. We know things don't just happen right away. It takes time, and enduring the process of time and doing things over and over and over again until we get through the manifestation phases of specific things, because there are a lot of growing pains, lots and lots of growing pains, and dealing with things that, as men, as people, right, the things we deal with for the responsibilities that we have to fulfill the responsibilities that we have, and the duties that we just, the things that we're responsible for, the things we endure, that we have to endure, and the discipline that we have to endure that process so we could carry the world before us, carry our own personal lives and all of our baggages and lots of baggages that I've accumulated in the past that I'm carrying today still, and letting that baggage go. Emotionally, you could say, emotional baggage, mental baggage, yeah, that too. For me, it's a lot of financial baggage and the financial mistakes that I've made that I'm paying for today. That's the main thing that I want to get out of now. All right, debts that I have, anything that I have financed, pay that off. My personal bills, just to feel okay, right? This is what they call the rat race, right? Going to work day in and day out, dealing with all the bullshit involved with work. Now, for granted, you could love what you do, but there's always going to be some days where it's just like, gosh, damn, right? Certain customers you deal with, colleagues you deal with, yourself you deal with, situations and circumstances that you're responsible for taking care of. Right? It's very, very stressful. And I know that this wouldn't bother me as much if I know financially I had no financial burden. Now, I'm not talking about just regular bills to pay. Of course, you have to earn your living. There's nothing wrong with having to pay for food, right? Things like that. But when it comes to fixing the things that you've done, in the process of fixing those things, when it comes to the incongruence with the amount of money you're making, the things you deal with and put up with to get that money in your pocket, it can be very, very stressful. Now, I remember hearing this somewhere. They're saying, take every single problem you have, write it down on a sheet of paper. And they said, how many of those problems can be solved by having money? I was thinking about, like, well, Just about the majority of my problems are about money, if not all of them. So the problems aren't the problems themselves. The problems is the lack of money. So it's like, okay, how can we fix the money thing? Now, right, that's where your own personal plan comes into play and how you're going to do that. And I have these grand ideas for me and what I want to do for myself, for my family, and for my people. Obviously, I don't know who doesn't. At least anybody who wants to do something great, not just for themselves, but for others. Everyone has their own grand idea, and they can live that. I can live that. We can be that. Right, not only are we in America, we're able to do that, but remember the master key. The master key is telling us that we're responsible for creating that person within ourselves. And we do that through the sheer will of consciousness alone, by the simple act of visualizing, imagining, seeing ourselves as that person, feeling it to be true. Because what happens when we do that, remember what happens with our neural system, both our central nervous system, which he tells us the conscious mind, and the sympathetic nervous system, which we know as the subconscious mind, the mind that is within us. Now, the subconscious mind, as we are told, operates in its own rhythmic motion, its own intelligence, right? We don't need to make our hair grow. I've said this many times already. We don't need to make our fingers grow. We don't need to make our food digest. Right? There's a power inside of us that's doing that. And this is the power that Christ gave to us as the Father within, the Christ within, the kingdom of heaven that is within. It is internal, it is mental, it's mind. Then the conscious mind is relying upon the workings of the subconscious for its proper function. So we know if the subconscious is working in harmony, where it's not harmoniously running, then it's going to affect our conscious mind. The conscious mind is responsible for visualizing, right? We set the direction, we tell the subconscious what it is that we want, what we desire to have. And these things are possible to have. Like, the thing is, and it makes total sense. It's like we could legitimately be who we want to be. But with this system we live in, it's like there's still a path we have to take to get there. And it takes time, it takes money. And it could take a lot of money. Lots of money, lots of time, and right, all of our manifestations are dependent upon our thought process, because we become we think about, and we have to discipline our mind, our mentality, our attitude to think mainly about what we want, and that can be very, very hard. Because the gestation period, the manifestation period, it may not happen. It's not going to happen when you want it to happen. That's the thing. Like, in the discipline to keep thinking upon it throughout the time, right? Like, for me, remember, my goal is lead. And there are cats younger than me, less experienced than me, don't even work nearly as hard as me, don't even know as much as I do, haven't even been there as long as I've been there, but yet they're already a lead. And that pisses me off. And you realize that you're not always chosen by other people depending upon what you're capable of doing. It's dependent upon whether they like you or not, or whether there's interest in you for them, right? Something that they want for themselves. You know, when you're younger, you're easier to mold, so to speak. And you'd be right, it's dependent upon the mindset, but a younger mind is easier to mold. An older mind is not. An older person is not. The older person has been around long enough with their own life experiences, and their own pre-programs, that they have to be willing more so than the younger cat. So the younger cat will just absorb things. They don't have enough life experience. Not everyone, but most of them. Right? Most of them don't. I've learned that. Right? I'm 31. I'm not the same person I was when I was 21. Some of these young cats that are leads are barely in their 20s, over 20s. And nothing to do with their potential, nothing to do with what they're capable of doing. We gotta remember there's also that maturity, right? I'm a man with responsibility, and it took me a while to really understand this mindset and viewpoint about my life. But I know as that, it can be hard being a man perfectly capable of everything and wanting it for himself, other than, watching somebody that still has a lot to learn. Think about this guy who gave me an opportunity for union. He told me not to waste my life at Walmart. Right, these men are telling me and giving me an opportunity to work with them. And how many people have told me I deserve better than Walmart? Well, there are like incentives for me to be there too. So Mr. Wayne's kind of at a crossroad. I'm at a crossroad with what I want when it comes to my immediate financial income. We are halfway through Master Key System, starting today. It is Wednesday. I believe I already said it. I know aside from all of that, Blanca did tell me the opportunity is there for me to lead. And I did tell one of my colleagues, I want to be a lead, not just for being lead, right? It's not about who's in command. It's not about who's in control. It's about being me. I told him that. I told him so I could actually be myself as somebody that's helping and leading people, right? You could do that, obviously, without being in the position. But when it comes to business and positions being there, I need to be in that position, right? I need it just for my own well-being. And the reason I need it, like I said, so I could have, I don't want to use the word control. It's not about the control, but it's about personal control. I'll be able to have more freedom to make better choices for me and my team, which I know I can do and make for the betterment of the team, because I already see the better choices. But yet, because I'm not seen as the lead, they're not as valued as they could be. But for granted, get this too, I have been getting a lot of haters and realizing how many people actually don't like me because I speak back to them. Right? There are certain things I'm willing to do, many things for many other people. But we have so much to do already, and it's like if they could do something themselves, they need to do it. Right? Especially if it's more convenient for the customer. So instead of me being the middleman, having to know the situation, relaying it, talking specifically with one of our techs, doesn't really like me anymore. Because he asked, I was already in the middle of helping 3 customers, doing my own thing, making sure my department is running smoothly. He's working the back, working on a customer's vehicle, right? Asked me to call the customer, let him know we couldn't do it. And I told him, well, you can't call him? All the other techs come in and call the customer. Why can't you call him? Right? And since then, he never liked me. And the reason I said that, because it'd be better for the customer. It's best for the customer to hear it directly from the technician themselves, as compared to having to go through me. Because now I need to hear the story from him, relay the story the best that I can through the customer, right? And that's also dependent upon whether he communicates it to me correctly, and whether I'm able to communicate it to the customer correctly, right? And then on top of all these other things that I have to do for me, right, getting my job done, that's part of his job, right? And standing up for, right, tolerating. What are we going to tolerate? Like I said, I'm more than willing to do things for people, to help them with things. But in certain situations, they have to take the responsibility for it and get the job done. Especially when it's best for the customer. In this situation, it just makes the most sense for them to do that in this situation. But there are a lot of people that right, I'm a very people person, but I know and I've learned that we can't do everything for everybody. You just can't. People have to do things for themselves. Because if you're stretched too thin, then that's not good for you as an individual. And plus how well I'm actually doing. Let's get started. We're on part 13. Now like I said earlier, we're officially halfway through the master key system starting today. We're 3 months in. We have 3 months left to go. And even this can be a very, very grueling process. I know, I remember actually sharing that when I was younger. The endurance of this, right? This is an endurance process, and to keep doing it and doing it, because I have had a very strange day today, and I don't know, a lot of the responsibilities that I had to do today, I'm not gonna oversee it. I didn't want to do anything today. I didn't want to do anything in my life today. It was just one of those days, right, of just seeing things differently and going through these changes and understanding certain things and putting up with things, right? And then this, I'm committed to this. We're going to do this. We're going to get through all of it. And let's get through it. One more thing that I want to show you. Check this out. You got Peace Lily. She's getting big. I potted her the other day. She was very happy. She was getting way too big for the little seed plant, planter thing that she was in. Now she's in this big old pot. We're gonna sit her right over there. Now she'd grow even bigger, stronger. And now she has the freedom to expand her roots. Wow. Those words just completely explained how I'm feeling. I need the freedom to expand my roots. More freedom to expand my roots. And that's where we're at. That's ultimately where we're at. That's what we're going through. And all that, there are a lot of great things happening with work, but all that other bucket of shit, excuse my Italian, that we deal with is all for expanding our roots, to be able to have the freedom to expand our roots. So let's get started. Part 13 of Master Key System. So, introduction. Physical science is responsible for the marvelous age of invention in which we are now living, but spiritual science is now setting out on a career whose possibilities no one can foretell. Spiritual science has previously been the football of the uneducated, the superstitious, the mystical, but men are now interested in definite methods and demonstrated facts only. So what spiritual science is doing for us, it is taking things out of the realm of superstition and giving us a legitimate logical explanation of its existence, of what it actually is. Right? We're interested nowadays on these definite methods and how we could use them in our lives. Remember, anything that is truly of value is something that can be a practice, something that can be applied. If there is no application of the information, remember, it would just be considered a theory. It can't be considered something that's completely real. It has to be proven to be true and proven to be put into practice. We have come to know that thinking is a spiritual process, that vision and imagination preceded action and event, that the day of the dreamer has come. The following lines by Mr. Herbert Kaufman are interesting in this connection, and I quote, "They are the architects of greatness. Their vision lies within their souls. They peer beyond the veils and mists of doubt and pierce the walls of unborn time. The belted wheel, the trail of steel, the churning screw are shuttles in the loom on which they weave their magic tapestries. Makers of empire, they have fought for bigger things than crowns and higher seats than thrones. Your homes are set upon the land a dreamer found. The pictures on its walls are visions from a dreamer's soul. They are the chose few, the blazers of the way. Walls crumble and empires fall. The tidal wave sweeps from the sea and tears a fortress from its rocks. The rotting nations drop off from time's bow, and only things the dreamers make live on." End quote. Part 13, which follows, tells why the dreams of the dreamer come true. It explains the law of causation by which dreamers, inventors, authors, financiers bring about the realization of their desires. It explains the law by which the thing pictured upon our mind eventually becomes our own. To keep focused on it, Mr. Wayne. Trust the process, trust the manifestation. You have to be patient and stay disciplined. You too, viewer, we have to be patient, we have to stay disciplined. Today was just one of those days where I guess it's just been such a focus on the negative of things. We're told not to be focused on the negative, but it's hard not to see it. And sometimes it's just, I do a lot of people's thinking for them. I say hi to my colleagues and they don't say hi to me, right? I just feel like I'm getting tired of doing things for other people. But they could easily do for themselves, or trying to create something between somebody, which obviously they don't give a shit about to begin with, which is a learning experience for me, right? It's a good thing I'm seeing this. And likewise for you, viewer, like, we can't just keep spending our time and energy on something that other people don't want to be involved in. I'm talking specifically about Walmart. I'm talking specifically about work, and I'm seeing these things. I'm doing these connections. Remember, as we go through Master Key System, I'm sharing a lot of my personal life as well, right? Because I'm sharing how this information is affecting me and where I'm at today. Because I do see a lot of things different. I see people different today. And I'm understanding more and more of how I'm going to be using my time and energy, and my focus, and where I'm placing my focus. As I say with work, like, yes, it's great to have friends, but we got our own personal lives, right? We have our own lives, and it's not about them. It really isn't. It is, but it's not. It's about us. It really, truly is. This is about my life. It's not about them. Who cares? All due respect to them, but, I don't want to use the word F them, but, who gives a shit if anybody likes you or not? Right? Who gives a shit? It's not about whether people like you or not. As it said, the ones that are what Dr. Seuss say? The ones that matter don't mind. The ones that mind don't matter. Right, that's how you find your people. That's how you find your crowd. Especially with building New Thought Society, like, what are we causing to happen? But the cause behind doing this program is obviously to use the information and cause the things that I want to happen in my life. But as I've said many times, it's right, this point that I'm at with Walmart, is this really truly what I want? Or do I just want it out of necessity? I think that's for me to understand and really grasp. Is this something I really truly want, or do I just want it out of necessity? And these are very, very important questions that we need to ask. We need to ask ourselves, because we know that we need to know exactly what it is that we want. Let's continue. Now that's the end of the introduction. Let's go ahead and get started with part 13. It has been the tendency, and, as might be proved, a necessity for science to seek the explanation of everyday facts by a generalization of those others, which are less frequent and form the exception. Thus does the eruption of the volcano manifest the heat which is continually at work in the interior of the earth, into which the latter owes much of her configuration. Now, latter, he's talking about earth, which the land we know that we live upon came from the volcanic eruptions, volcanoes themselves, which came from the inside of the planet. Thus does the lightning reveal a subtle power constantly busy to produce changes in the inorganic world, and, as dead languages now seldom heard were once ruling among the nations, so does a giant tooth in Siberia, or a fossil in the depth of the earth, not only bear record of the evolution of past ages, but thereby explains to us the origin of the hills and valleys which we inhabit today. In this way, a generalization of facts which are rare, strange, or form the exception has been the magnetic needle guiding to all discoveries of inductive science. This method is founded upon reason and experience, and thereby destroyed superstition, precedent, and conventionality. It is almost 300 years since Lord Bacon recommended this method of study, to which the civilized nations owe the greater part of their prosperity, the more valuable part of their knowledge, purging the mind from narrow prejudices, denominated theories, more effectually than by the keenest irony, calling the attention of men from heaven to earth more successfully by surprising experiments than by the most forcible demonstration of their ignorance, educating the inventive faculties more powerfully by the near prospect of useful discoveries thrown open to all, than by talk of bringing to light the innate laws of our mind. Well, that was a lot of information that we just covered right there. But he's saying Bacon, Lord Bacon, is the one that recommended the study of scientific reasoning, inductive reasoning. And through scientific and inductive reasoning, we have developed more prosperity, more movement, more progress within our nations, within our own personal lives. Because it's, remember, as we've learned, inductive reasoning is pulling from one source of information, another source of information, finding the golden line between the two and bringing the information together into one, right? Into one solid understanding, which we know New Thought itself came about in that way. The method of Bacon has seized the spirit and aim of the great philosophers of Greece and carried them into effect by the new means of observation which another age offered. You know what I think is going on with me too? Because I know, where I'm at with Walmart right now, of course there's something new to be learned every day, but I don't need to be trained anymore. I don't need a personal mentor right now anymore. What I need is to apply what I know, stay open-minded. Because even my lead that I've had since I started, she told me that I have everything down. I already have everything down. Right now, it's just taking what I know and continually applying it. But in the meantime, while applying that, I need to really move forward with New Thought the way I was in the beginning. Because I have been so focused on work. The only thing I've been focusing on is staying consistent with these videos, doing the practices, doing my meditation. But when it comes to my other videos, I need to get more books out there again. I need to refocus on this. Because lead will happen. It'll happen in time. It's not going to happen right away. And I feel like I'm at a spot where my growth feels like it's hitting a ceiling. Right? And right now, it's just enduring the process until I move up. And then I'll be able to learn more within another position. Of course, we're going to continue to learn more. There's always more to know. There's always more to learn. But I think right now, I really need to refocus on this and getting more of New Thought Society out there. Because regardless of that, yes, I do want it out of necessity. I want Walmart out of necessity. This I also want out of necessity, but it's not financial necessity. It's more of a spiritual, personal necessity. My desire to be around my people, that understand and are interested in this information. Right? And this is good because, right, it's a growing period. It's the growing phase. What I'm going through right now is a perfect example of just our growth through life. Really understanding the things that we go through from a higher viewpoint, from a bigger picture, who we're becoming, what we're dealing with, where we're heading next, what's the most important, what's the most valuable, how to balance everything out between each other, right? Like, these are very, very, very important things to know, to understand. And the older I get, the more I see it to be true. Okay. So he says, again, the method of Bacon has seized the spirit and aim of the great philosophers of Greece. So our Greece philosophers used scientific and inductive reasoning, which carried them into effect by the new means of observation which another age offered, which our age offered. You know, in the Message of New Thought, Abel Ellen actually speaks about Grecian philosophy, and he was explaining how Greece loved philosophy and the Roman loved power. Now the thing is that the Romans actually took much of the Greek philosophy and turned it into something tyrannical in order for them to expand their power. Thus, Thus, gradually revealing a wondrous field of knowledge in the infinite space of astrology, in the microscopic egg of embryology, in the dim age of geology, disclosing an order of the pulse which the logic of Aristotle could never have unveiled, and analyzing into formerly unknown elements the material combinations which no dialect of the scholastics could force apart. Oh my gosh. Mr. Handel's going for the home run with his use of words in these paragraphs, isn't he? This is what I mean, like these men that were a part of this movement, their level of intelligence was definitely beyond the majority of the intelligence people have today. It's all right, Mr. Wayne. Or these are also, this is your progress. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've already considered stopping this and starting over again, but I don't need to. I don't need to. So scientific, okay. So he's saying scientific reasoning in this age is what has offered our wisdom and knowledge that we know today in astronomy, in the microscopic egg of embryology. Because of scientific reasoning, we understand more about embryology. We know more about geology. We know much more now that the logic of Aristotle could not have unveiled to us. That's what Mr. Hanel is saying. This is why scientific reasoning and inductive reasoning is so important, because of what it has given us, right? What it opened for us in our understanding when it comes to these deeper realities of our lives. Right here at the end, when he says, and analyzing into formerly unknown elements and material combinations which no dialectic of the scholastics could force apart. Now we know material combinations, I feel he's talking when it comes to subatomic particles and atoms, right? Unknown elements such as atoms and material combinations which no dialectic of the scholastics could force apart, which people cannot force apart within themselves, by themselves, or because we know even atoms are held together by the strong nuclear force, which is the very force and intelligence of God itself, right? The infinite mind which permeates all things. It has lengthened life, it has mitigated pain, it has suppressed pain, it has relieved pain, it has extinguished diseases, it has increased the fertility of the soil, it has given new securities to the mariner, it has spanned great rivers with bridges of form unknown to our fathers, it has guided the thunderbolt from heaven to earth, it has lighted up night with the splendor of day, it has extended the range of human vision, it has multiplied the power of the human muscles. It has accelerated motion. It has annihilated distance. It has enabled men to descend into the depths of the sea, to soar into the air, to penetrate securely into the noxious recesses of the earth. Saying induction, scientific induction. Scientific reasoning and inductive reasoning is what has done this for us. This, then, is the true nature and scope of induction. But the greater the success which men have achieved in the inductive science, the more does the whole tenor of their teachings and examples impress us with the necessity of observing carefully, patiently, accurately, with all the instruments and resources at our command, the individual facts before venturing upon a statement of general laws. With inductive science, we have carefully observed facts, things which have been proven to be true through experimentation, and resources, in instruments that we had at our resources. Right? This is where these natural laws come from. They're scientifically discovered to be true, regardless of our opinion. That's why I say it's so powerful to think along the lines of principle, because principles never change. Principles do not change. They're wisdom. They're set in stone. They were set by God. It's God's word. God said, this is what this is, no matter what our opinion of it is. And our job is to bring our mind in congruence with the workings of this universal law. Gosh dang. See, that's another thing I'm realizing. This information is so important. And what I can do with it is so very important. I need to redefine the most important things in my life. Mr. Wayne is going through a lot right now in front of all of you. I know it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's nothing to be ashamed about. This is life. This is how we find who we are. These are the questions, and these are the things that allow us to really see who we want to be and tap into what we're truly capable of doing. Remember, we have to know exactly what it is. To ascertain the bearing of the spark drawn from the electric machine under every variety of circumstances, that we thus may be emboldened with Franklin to address, in the form of a kite, the question to the cloud about the nature of the lightning, to assure ourselves of the manner in which bodies fall, with the exactness of a Galileo, that with Newton we may dare to ask the moon about the force that fastens it to the earth. Now, even in the Quimby manuscripts, they talk about Benjamin Franklin's experience with flying the kite, and how Franklin discovered in his discovery of lightning, and how lightning actually works when he was flying a kite in a rainstorm, in a thunderstorm, and a thunder actually struck his kite and he was electrocuted. And that's what gave him the right, like he says right here, to address that situation, to address what happened right then and there, to ask the question, right, which emboldened Franklin to address, in the form of a kite, the question to the cloud about the nature of lightning. That experience gave Benjamin Franklin the question to the cloud as to what lightning actually is that struck his kite. To assure ourselves of the manner in which bodies fall with the exactness of Galileo, that with Newton we may desire to ask the moon about the force that fastens it to the earth. Now, this is very interesting too, the fact that we're reading this part and he's going over inductive science and inductive reasoning with these men who questioned things, right? They questioned life. They question life, they question their life. And in answering these questions is what led them to the results that they secured. In short, by the value we set upon truth, by our hope in a steady and universal progress, not to permit a tyrannical prejudice to neglect or mutilate unwelcome facts, but to rear the superstructure of science upon the broad and unchangeable basis of full attention, paid to the most isolated as well as the most frequent phenomena. An ever-increasing material may be collected by observation, but the accumulated facts are of very different value for the explanation of nature. And as we esteem most highly those useful qualities of men, which are of their rarest occurrence, so does natural philosophy sift the facts and attach a preeminent importance to that striking class which cannot be accounted for by the usual in daily observation of life. So he's saying there are qualities and classes of men that are so rare that they're a rare occurrence. He's saying they can't be accounted for by the usual and daily observation of life because of how rare it is to come by them. Right? Because your daily observances, right, especially the rarest qualities in men, right, you don't just find that on a daily basis. It's very rare to come by. It's very rare to even develop it within yourself. It's very hard, especially with the way things are nowadays, and people in their acceptance of mediocrity, in their okay of being mediocre. Right? People are going to do what they're going to do. Right? Their values, their life, and the values that they have is dependent upon them, and they have every right to live that way. This is America, and we have every right to live great if we desire to live great. Now, I think that is another thing that even Mr. Wayne is going through right now. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest. I don't need to say that. People could tell you that. You know you are when other people are telling you. I believe I am, but it's not for me to say. Leave that for other people to say. But it's like, you know how far you're willing to go to make sure something gets done, and how much you're truly capable of, and what you can do for others. And you're surrounded by those that just do not give a shit. It can be very hard. It's very, very hard, because you have to tolerate and accept their lack of wanting to do more, to be more. Right? They don't even think about it. Right? They don't think about it at all. And that's another thing. It's like, especially with developing myself in along the lines of these men, doing what I can to, it's changing my thought process and separating me. Like I'm separating. I'm being separated from the pack. Which is good for me. Ultimately, it's good for them, because they need somebody like me. They need somebody like me. Let's continue. If then we find that certain persons seem to possess unusual power, what are we to conclude? First, we may say it is not so, which is simply an acknowledgment of our lack of information, because every honest investigator admits that there are many strange and previously unaccountable phenomena constantly taking place. Those, however, who become acquainted with the creative power of thought will no longer consider them unaccountable. Because now he's saying that because when you understand the creative power of thought, anything that anybody ever does or ever can do is ultimately going to be based upon their level of thinking, the nature of the thought that they are carrying. Right? Again, we become what we think about. And consciousness embodies the character of the thought which we think, which we emanate. Right? So if we're thinking higher thought, if we're thinking upon higher lines, we're going to naturally embody that character ourselves. We're going to be thinking from that highest viewpoint. And just who we are as a person will be operating from that higher viewpoint. That's how it is. So he's saying if you see somebody doing something great or possesses some unusual power, there is a reason for its existence. And what he's saying, it's found in the very creative power of thought itself. It's found in how they're using their power, how they're applying their power. Remember how we went over, there are two main things that happen when we think. The first thing that happens is spiritual manifestation. We live in this universe that is filled with mind, right? Intelligence, the quantum field, whatever you want to call it. There's a substance, an invisible substance, which is conscious. It thinks. It's God. It's mind. It's mental. It's just the infinite. It's the infinite intelligence. And this infinite intelligence has within itself everything that is in existence. And everything in existence we know is in vibration. It's energy. Right? So even this material world we see, this physical part of our reality, only constitutes a certain point of our reality. It constitutes the least amount of our reality. Well, the highest portion of our reality, the majority of our reality, is happening on a vibrational, energetic, spiritual level. This is science. Right? It's no spiritual guru. It's no any of that. It's scientifically proven that this is how our reality is. Now, for granted, yes, there are a lot of things that science is still discovering and figuring out today. But the first thing that happens, since everything is in vibration, when we think, thought being spiritual, being vibratory, our thought is vibrating through the universal mind through the field of infinite intelligence. Remember that diaphragm that we drew out the other day? And whatever material thing or other spiritual thing that is vibrating on that frequency which you are putting out is going to be manifested to you. It's going to be attracting to you from the outside. Now that's the spiritual portion. The physical manifestation of that is that your brain and your neurons, through neuroplasticity, your brain is literally changing its character, changing and forming and molding to manifest that thought within you as an individual. Right? Those are the two things that happen when we think. Oh man, of course. I even said this earlier too, like I'm not vibrating on the same frequency that these people are vibrating on. I said that today. I am not vibrating on the same frequency as my colleagues. I'm not. I'm vibrating higher. I'm vibrating much higher. When it comes to keeping it simple, we're just vibrating on a higher plane. Because we deserve more. We do. There's a difference between just saying you deserve something and knowing the work that you put in for the things that you deserve. And the sacrifices you make. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. Second, we may say that they are the result of supernatural inference, but a scientific understanding of natural laws will convince us that there's nothing supernatural. Interference. I was wondering why that sounded a little bit strange. Supernatural interference. Every phenomenon is a result of an accurate, definite cause. And the cause is an immutable law or principle which operates with invariable precision, whether the law is put into operation consciously or unconsciously. Now again, I know I said this in another video, but I firmly believe in angels and demons, right? We know there are X-rays in existence. We can't see X-rays with our physical eyes, but we have instruments that measure them, right? There are certain species out there that actually see things in X-ray. The reason we can't see them is because our machine, our body, this biological computer we live in is only programmed. It only vibrates at certain frequencies, so it only takes in certain colors. It only takes in certain things that we see. Now, knowing this and knowing that these X-rays exist, even though we can't see them with the naked eye, who are we to say other spiritual beings aren't around us? Who are we to say that there isn't another life form around us at this very minute? How can we say that? Well, we know that there are colors in the color spectrum that we can't see with our physical eye. Right? So when he's saying here about supernatural interference, now, I have had personal experiences where it's like, right, it's hard to explain. The only way I was able to explain it was that was God. That was God. Right? Or other things like, right, who are we to say that we're not influenced by higher forces? Even though we know what he's saying, he's talking about cause and effect. We do have the power to put legitimate causes into play. And we know that we reap the benefits of the results that we put out. Right? We see the things come back to us, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously. So we know the law, no matter what, is working for us. And we do have a say in those things. But who are we to say that supernatural interference does not happen either? Third, we may say that we are on forbidden ground, There are some things which we should not know. This objection was used against every advance in human knowledge. Every individual who ever advanced a new idea, whether a Columbus, a Darwin, a Galileo, a Fulton, or an Emerson, was subjected to ridicule or persecution. Right? Even Christ. Look what happened to Christ. So that this objection should receive no serious consideration. So what he's saying here is that even if people object to us, even if people argue with us, it doesn't matter. As he said, any advancement which has ever been given to society as a whole by the greatest of people that are recorded that we know today, all these people were ridiculed. It just comes with the process of advancement. It comes with the process of progressing. Now, I'm not talking about this bullshit progressivism that's going on within our government today, in this woke movement and all that mental disease. No, we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about real, true progress as humanity. We're talking about progress that is found in the workings of natural law, and using that for our constructive benefit, for our benefit as a humanity, not as this new radical idea which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and which just causes diseases and things and whatnot. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the things that will legitimately evolve us into advancing us into a higher form of species. But on the contrary, we should carefully consider every fact which is brought to our attention. By doing this, we will more readily ascertain the law upon which it is based. It will be found that the creative power of thought will explain every possible condition or experience, whether physical, mental, or spiritual. I got to refocus on this. I have to refocus on this. This is so much more important. Walmart is very important. They're a very major, big company. I'm very grateful to have them and to be working there. I am very grateful to be working there. But people are right. I've had customers tell me certain things. Customers tell me that I deserve more. There's something more for me. As a person, there's more for me as a person. Now, I know I'm going to be at Walmart for a while because I'm giving myself the opportunity to be able to drive a truck with them again. Right? And I know there are specific requirements for them to be able to. But I know, right, Adrian was right. Like, I know enough. I know enough. I have everything down already. All I need is to, at this point, I just need to keep applying what I know and keep an open mind about everything so I can learn more as I go. But even beyond that, like ultimately what we do now is subconscious. Right? I could be at work and not think about what to do anymore. Right? I just know what to do and I do it. Right? I'm at that point already with it. So what that means is I could keep focusing on this and concentrating on this. Because this is the very thing that's going to be able to turn me into something that just isn't average. I'm not like everybody else, and I know that. I've never truly been like the people around me. There's a reason for it. Because there's an opportunity in that understanding for me. Like they say, you have to be different to make a difference. You have to be. You can't make a difference if you're being just like everybody else. You can't. Because everyone's just following what they perceive or know as normal. It will be found that the creative power of thought will explain every possible condition or experience, whether physical, mental, or spiritual. Now, why is that so? Remember how he told us in the past, because of the creative power of thought is what has given us the ability to understand spiritual things, mental things, physical things, these universal laws, situations and circumstances, human behavior, psychology. The creative power of thought is what has given us the ability to understand these parts of our lives on a logical, reasonable level. And because of that, we can understand just about anything through thought alone. Thought will bring about conditions in correspondence with the predominant mental attitude. Therefore, if we fear disaster, as fear is a powerful form of thought, disaster will be the certain result of our thinking. It is this form of thought which frequently sweeps away the result of many years of toil and effort. Yes, because we can do it all. You can, Mr. Wayne. There are no limitations. You could be a lead and still build this. You can be more than that and still build this and still work out and still train people and still do all these things and still have a family. There's a way to be able to do all of these things. It's possible because your thought is the very thing that will open the way for you to make it so. Just like even with me being on the radar for lead anyway, I pushed my way up to the front. I made it apparent to our managers and to our leads and to our coaches that that's what I wanted. I remember I chose myself to be in that position. By putting myself on that radar screen. I didn't wait for them to come to me. I didn't wait for them to notice my abilities, my skills, my work. I didn't wait for them to notice my value. I went to them and said, this is what I want. I did do that. Now, obviously, I was more subtle and more in the environment, right? When I approached it, I was more easing my way into it. But ultimately, that's still what I did. And it is going to happen. Like they say, win your lead. It's going to happen. See, this is good. This is very good because I'm building tolerance. Stress tolerance is a very, very important thing to have, and we're building that. Because there are no limitations on the things that we can do. If we think of some form of material wealth, we may secure it. By concentrated thought, the required conditions will be brought about, and the proper effort put forth, which will result in bringing about the circumstances necessary to realize our desires. Keep trusting the process, Wayne. We all need friendly reminders. But we often find that when we secure the things we thought we wanted, they do not have the effect we expected. That is, the satisfaction is only temporary, or possibly is the reverse of what we expected. Wow. And I said that, 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago? Is this really what I want? Do I want it because I want it, or do I want it out of necessity? That's why necessities are what bring demands, and demands are what bring about results. So knowing these These words, right? Demands, necessities. We know that the necessities we need in our life is what demands us to do certain things, which create the results to meet the need. Therefore, we have to position ourselves. Like I said earlier, I have to create the freedom for my roots to grow. That's where I'm at. Building the freedom for my roots to grow. So I have to build the environment. I have to build the necessity to which I could create my own demands and therefore generate my own results which I desire to see fit. And that involves using the creative power of my thought to structure my life, to structure my priorities, to structure my values. And to do that with every single individual compartment, so to speak, with my life. Of course, there are the major power pillars, right? Our family, our friends, our finances, our fitness, our health, our wellness, all those good stuff. Obviously, all those matter, but it goes even deeper than that too when it comes to, is something like this even worth thinking about? Am I going to think about this instead? Is this good for me to even think about? Right? Is this just going to be a waste of time? Right? It goes like deeper. It goes much, much deeper than just the main pillars. What then is the proper method or procedure? What are we to think in order to secure what we really desire? What you and I desire, what we all desire, what everyone is seeking, is happiness and harmony. If we can be truly happy, we shall have everything the world can give. If we are happy ourselves, we can make others happy. Wow. See, now that's something that I need to meditate on. Because I know the opportunity is there for me to move up. I guess the real question is ultimately, is it going to make me happy in the long run? Right, and that's something that I need to find out. That's something I need to discover for me. So I know New Thought Society is something that I could fully create. And I could do something with something that I feel is very, very valuable and important. Walmart, I didn't create Walmart. There's a culture that I have to follow. There's a culture that I have to abide by. I have those that I need to listen to. I have to do things that are asked of me, which I do those things. But like I said before, ultimately in the end, is that truly going to make me happy? Always having to answer to somebody else. I mean, I don't know who would be happy always having to answer to somebody else. Remember what God promised us. He promised us that He'll make us the head and not the tail, that we shall be above only and not beneath, if we obey His word, if we obey His laws. Because the foundation of our universe, which is based on wisdom and the thoughts of God, it's order. It's all in order. It works through laws. And we are working through those laws ourselves. Like we really truly are. We're connected to them. It's something that I'll need to find. Every day at work, there's always a good and a bad day. But we cannot be happy unless we have health, strength, congenial friends, pleasant environment, sufficient supply, not only to take care of our necessities, but to provide for those comforts and luxuries to which we are entitled. See, that's a big part that I'm dealing with too, personally. It's what I opened this very video up with. Right, slowly but surely. It's just the endurance phase of getting through this process. The old orthodox way of thinking was to be a worm, to be satisfied with our portion, whatever it is. But the modern idea is to know that we are entitled to the best of everything, that the Father and I are one, and that the Father is the universal mind, the Creator, the original substance from which all things proceed. Now, admitting that this is all true in theory, and it has been taught for 2,000 years, it is the essence of every system of philosophy or religion. How are we to make it practical in our lives? How are we to get the actual tangible results here and now? In the first place, we must put our knowledge into practice. Nothing can be accomplished in any other way. The athlete may read books and lessons on physical training all his life, but unless he begins to give out strength by actual work, he will never receive any strength. He will eventually get exactly what he gives, but he will have to give it first. It is exactly the same with us. We will get exactly what we give, but we shall have to give it first. It will then return to us manyfold. And the giving is simply a mental process, because thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. Therefore, in giving thoughts of courage, inspiration, health, or help of any kind, we are setting causes in motion which will bring about their effect. Thought is a spiritual activity and is therefore creative. But make no mistake, thought will create nothing unless it is consciously, systematically, and constructively directed. And herein is the difference between idle thinking, which is simply a dissipation of effort, and constructive thinking, which means practically unlimited achievement. So he's telling us even the secret to our thinking and the creative power of thought must be systematized. It must be constructive. It must be practically used through the operation of natural law, through the thinking along the lines of natural law, and using these laws for our benefit and for the manifestation of the things that we want. Not just thinking, right? It's not just about thinking, it's about thinking upon the Word of God, the system of law. We have found that everything we get comes to us by the law of attraction. A happy thought cannot exist in an unhappy consciousness. Therefore, the consciousness must change, and as the consciousness changes, all conditions necessary to meet the changed consciousness must gradually change in order to meet the requirements of the new situation. In creating a mental image or an ideal, we are projecting a thought into the universal substance from which all things are created. This universal substance is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Are we to inform the omniscient as to the proper channel to be used to materialize our demand? can the finite advise the infinite. This is the cause of failure, of every failure. We recognize the omnipresence of this universal substance, but we fail to appreciate the fact that this substance is not only omnipresent, but is omnipotent and omniscient, and consequently will set causes in motion concerning which we may be entirely ignorant. So he's telling us this universal mind which knows all things and is all things. We don't have to tell it how things are to come about. We have to hold the image of what it is that we want, feel it to be true within us, believe that we are going to have it. The universal mind, through its infinite wisdom and intelligence, will move things about on its own and place you in situations and circumstances which will bring about the results which you desire. This is trusting the oneness of the universal mind, which has been said before, the holographic principle, the one universal principle, the one. There's only one, and you and I are parts and extensions and expressions of the one. So we focus and rely upon the creative power of thought in the utilization of these universal laws, which will naturally place us in situations and circumstances we need to be in order for the fulfillment of the things of which we want. In order for the Oh my gosh, I'm not even going to mention who that reminded me of. Oh my gosh. We can best conserve our interests by recognizing the power and infinite wisdom of the universal mind, and in this way become a channel whereby the infinite can bring about the realization of our desire. This means that recognition brings about realization. Therefore, for your exercise this week, make use of the principle. Recognize the fact that you are part of the whole, and that a part must be the same in kind and quality as the whole. The only difference there can possibly be is in degree. When this tremendous fact begins to permeate your consciousness, when you really come into a realization of the fact that you, not your body, but the ego, the I, the spirit which thinks, is an integral part of the great whole, that it is the same in substance, in quality, in kind, that the Creator could create nothing different from himself, you will also be able to say, the Father and I are one, and you will come into an understanding of the beauty, the grandeur, the transcendental opportunities which have been placed at your disposal. Quote, increase in me that wisdom which discovers my truest interest, strengthen my resolution to perform that which wisdom dictates. End quote. Now that's by Benjamin Franklin. Okay, I was wondering why this looked a little bit weird. Remember I told you I've been through this book and carried it with me so many times that all the pages and the spine was falling out. I was looking at this, it's part 13. Right next to it is the end of part 15. So I was looking at it like, it doesn't look right. But anyway, that's the end of this part. Again, we're going to be meditating on this part throughout the week. We'll be back next Wednesday for part 14. Now, today was very tough for Master Wayne to get through. We got it done. Or it doesn't always have to be perfect, anything you do. Because, like they say, you have a baseball batter. He could be the best baseball batter in the world, but yet still he's not going to bat 100% every time. He's just not. Right? Same thing with you. It's okay if you have days where you just don't feel up to the day. But you got to get it done anyway, right? That is what it means to be a responsible human individual. And to stay disciplined on the things that you commit to. Remember, we choose our commitments. You choose your commitment. And when you commit to something and make a decision to do it, you have to do it. I remember reading that in a part. If we don't do it, we're creating the habit of failure. We're creating the habit of giving up. We're creating the habit of just letting it go. We don't want that habit. We don't need that habit. The habit is what causes failure. People just throw it to the side. Now, it's a reminder for you, too, Mr. Wayne, and what you're manifesting with work. It's going to take time. Keep giving it time. I know you're seeing more about the people you work with, how people actually are, but that's good for you, so you know who and what not to waste your time on. You need to know those things. You also need to know that this is what it means to be responsible for others. This is what you go through. This is just how it is for people like us, Mr. Wayne. Especially with your ideals and the things you want. Eventually you're going to be paying other people's bills, giving them the opportunity to thrive and be a success in their own life. You're going to be the person doing that, and you need to be tolerant of who they are, because you have to have a certain level of thought, a specialized method of thinking that they don't have to have. As you know this part, I will see you next Wednesday for part 14. Love you.